What is up, guys? Welcome to the Militia Gaming Community. I'm Trigger, and a few days ago I put out a video with the top 5 fastest cars in Need for Speed Heat, and I thought the #1 spot was going to be undisputed. I was shocked at the number of comments I got saying, where's the Evo 9? Why isn't the Evo 9 in the top 5? My Evo is faster than the RSR. So I thought we need to put these two cars in a head-to-head direct fair competition and find out once and for all what the truth is about the Evo 9 versus the RSR. Let's go! The Militia Gaming Community and Dave Loves Games came together to create a community Discord. If you'd like to join the Discord, there's an invite link in the description down below. There are 3 arguments for the Evo 9 over the RSR that people use online, and here they are. I race RSRs all the time in my Evo and never lose, therefore it's faster. I've seen other YouTube videos that say it's the fastest car in the game. And my time on X race is faster with the Evo than with the RSR, therefore it's a faster car. Now let's take these arguments one by one. The first one, I race RSRs all the time in my Evo and I never lose, therefore the Evo is faster. This is just illogical. There are way too many variables in a multiplayer race, the biggest one being the driver's skill levels. Racing online proves nothing about the cars and everything about the drivers. Anyone can say, I beat RSR drivers all the time, because anyone can play this game. You don't know what the level of skill that you're racing against is, so this argument is absolutely ridiculous. Everyone needs to please stop using it. It doesn't prove anything about the cars themselves. Number 2, I've seen other YouTube videos say it's the fastest car in the game. Now, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus here, so I won't name names, but there's a particularly popular video out there that makes the claim that the Evo 9 is the RSR killer. But there are a few problems with the testing methods this person used in the video, none of which, by the way, I believe was on purpose. I think he just didn't have all of the information yet, and because of this, his method gave significant advantages to the Evo, and here are the issues. First, he used the 3rd fastest engine for the RSR, and the best engine for the Evo, so advantage Evo. He used a single turbo for the RSR and a dual turbo for the Evo, the dual being the faster option, advantage Evo. He only tested these cars with drag racing. This is the RSR's greatest weakness, and it is the Evo's biggest strength. He launched both cars at redline, which the RSR has wheel spin at redline and the Evo launches really well at redline. Advantage Evo. He raced through traffic, which I admit has a minimal effect on the races that they did, but in some of the clips you can see the RSR driver swaying from side to side, and that does affect the speed a little bit. And lastly, there were multiple jumps in the races in the tests that he did, and this is actually a disadvantage for the Evo. The RSR doesn't air out much when it jumps, but the Evo does, so the RSR would land to the ground faster and thus be able to put more power down onto the pavement and start to catch up, and this is the reason why the RSR was catching up almost every race towards the end of the race. This video has nearly 1 million views and has misled the Need for Speed Heat community, but I don't know where this person stands on this comparison now, as this video was made over 9 months ago. So no disrespect to my fellow Need for Speed Heat YouTuber at all, this is not an attack on him, I just want to set the record straight once and for all. And number 3, my time on X race is faster with the Evo than it is with the RSR, and therefore it's faster. Now this argument actually has a limited amount of truth to it. It is, however, missing something. Just because you drive the Evo faster than the RSR doesn't mean that the Evo itself is faster than the RSR. It just means that you are faster when you drive the Evo than when you drive the RSR. This really says more about you as a driver than it does the cars themselves. If you could drive the RSR at its full potential and you could drive the Evo at its full potential, then you went out and did this exact same test, you would be comparing the times and your result would be significantly different. Now let's get into my personal testing. because the driver is such a big variable in these tests, I'm willing to throw out any test where the results are too close. If they are within a second of each other, I'm not going to count it for or against either of the cars, and we will throw that test out. So here's the test that we're going to run. The first test is the Palm City Raceway test. This is a circle track. For the most part, you will be spending most of your time in the top gears in the high speed sections of what your car is capable of. However, because of the turns, we will get to see slightly which car is better in a circle. Next, we're going to look at each of the cars on the race Sonic. Sonic is a fairly open race, and this will test some of the turning characteristics of each car, but mostly the car's abilities to get to top speed in a straight or semi-straight line. It's a fairly open course. And then we're going to be doing an Aerion test. Aerion is a very tight track. It has very limited top speed sections and a lot of tight turns, so we get to see which car performs better in tighter turns. And lastly, we're going to be doing a straight line test. Both cars from a dead stop, straight on, and we will see which car is faster in a straight line. I'll be running these tests side by side with the video, and I'm going to sync the video to where it starts exactly when the race starts for both cars, and then we'll let the video play out. Alright, so first up, let's take these cars to the Palm City Raceway and see how each car can handle this first race. Now, I'm not a big fan of this Palm City Raceway test, but a lot of people in the community want to see this test, so I decided to include it in the testing. I don't really think that this proves much. It only proves which car can handle those banked turns better than the other car, because for the most part with the NOS, you're going to spend a lot of time near the top of your last gear at top speed. So it doesn't really prove much, but you will see a difference in time when you get to the end of this race. Alright, and there you have it. The RSR wins by almost 2 full seconds, and thus advantage RSR in the circle track. Let's move on to Aerion. I decided to test both of these cars on Aerion because Aerion is a very tight course. There's a lot of turns, and it highlights how well a car can handle, which is actually the RSR's strength. So this test is geared towards a better RSR result, but what I did was use the RSR clip that was the worst run of the tests, and I put it head to head with my best EVO run, and you can see the differences in the time. Even with the RSR going into the grass right there, it hits this next corner super fast and is able to take over the first place lead on this course at around 20% of this race. So I left all of my mistakes in on this run. I've run into the wall and go into the dirt, and all of these things happen for the RSR, and yet the EVO run is extremely clean. So let's go ahead and let the rest of this race play out. You can see the mistakes and the cleanness on the EVO's part, and we can judge it at the end. Alright, so as you can see, that RSR finishes seconds ahead of this Evo, and it's the worst run that I had. The Evo then finishes with my best Evo run, so definitely advantage to the RSR on any course that has tighter turns like this. Let's move on to Sonic. So for the Sonic test, I actually recorded quite a few runs with both of these cars in order to try to get a clean run. So what we've got here is, on the left side, you've got the Evo IX with my cleanest run of the tests, and on the right side, you've got the RSR with my worst run out of the tests. So I thought this was interesting because when you get to the end and you see the times, this will be eye-opening for most of you. But let's go ahead and let this play out. Just notice where each car is on the track and where the RSR starts to kind of catch up, and then you'll sort of see what I'm trying to prove with this video. Again, the Evo is my best run for Sonic, and this RSR run is actually the worst run that I did while testing. Again, I'll let it play out and then I'll catch up with you at the end of the race. So as you can see, you've got the Evo at 241.86 and the RSR at 242.76. The difference is only 0.9 seconds. This is less than a second difference on the worst RSR run of the day and the best Evo run of the day. So as you can see, this RSR is quite a bit faster on Sonic. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the straight line test, and then I'll kind of sum up my thoughts for the entire comparison. Alright, so in this straight line test, I used the Sonic race again to make sure there was no traffic, and this is a fairly long straight, so I parked it right here in front of the speed limit sign, and then I've synced both videos so that the cars take off at the exact same time. I drove in a straight line with no NOS to see which car is faster in a straight line from a dead stop, and you can see already that the Evo is quite a bit ahead. It's got about 2 to 3 car lengths on the RSR. And now if you look at the check mark on the left and this motel sign right here on the left, you can see the Evo is still ahead on this straight line test. But here's the interesting part about this. The second we introduce any type of turns, and these are not very sharp turns, the RSR starts to come back, and look at that. They finish almost at the exact same time. This is incredible. The second you introduce any type of turns, like I said, and these are not even sharp turns, the RSR starts to come back and make up time on the Evo. Now keep in mind, drag racing for the Evo is its greatest strength, and Drag racing for the RSR is its greatest weakness. So you've got one car's greatest strength and one car's greatest weakness, and trying to compare them together in a straight line race in a drag race is kind of ridiculous because there are no straight line races in this entire game. There's not one drag race scenario that you could point to other than being in an online lobby and racing your friends or racing random players in a drag race. And in that case, why would you pick the RSR in the first place? Because it doesn't have a lot of acceleration from a dead stop. Now, once it's moving, and if you introduce any type of turns to the race, the RSR wins no matter what. So as you can see, this is something that is very, very important to note because the most popular video, like I said earlier, shows the RSR losing several times, but all of those times were in a drag race scenario. And as I've laid out before, the odds were really stacked against the RSR in that race. So my conclusion on all of this and the truth of which car is better is that the RSR blows the EVO out of the water. It is better for racing in Need for Speed Heat, with the slight exception of a drag race. That is the only time where the EVO can beat the RSR. After all of this, if you still disagree with what I'm saying, I don't know how to convince you, and you probably can't be convinced. So we're just gonna let that slide and move on. The RSR is the king of this game 100%, and there's nothing anyone can say that makes it different. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone made it to the end of the video because there were a lot of good points throughout all 4 of my tests. And I know this was a long one, so I'm going to cut this outro pretty short. Thanks again to all of the Militia subs. You guys are awesome, and I will catch you on the next one. Trigger out.